It's that time of the week when we open it up to your questions. Wednesday mailbag. Are the Patriots really moving on? Has Kraft made the decision to move on from Bill Belichick? And what teams would we pick if we were an NFL playoff college football style committee? All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson mailbag.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. And by the way, today's mailbag questions, YouTube comments or at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL on Twitter. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 to bet with if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, we've gotten a few questions about this throughout the season, and this week it's heating up with the New England Patriots, with just how dismal that season has gone for them and just the way the roster has gone recently under Bill Belichick. And he's still kind of coaching up that defense, right? That's not something that's necessarily going to go away. You saw that firsthand recently, Matt, when the Steelers and the Pats faced off, and we've seen it multiple times now this season. But on the offensive side of the ball, can't figure out quarterback, and really the roster is in a bad place. But it sounds like Robert Kraft is ready to move on. And Randy asks us if there's any validity to this rumor, these new sources and reports that Robert Kraft's already made the decision. Bill Belichick is gone after this year. How do you move on from maybe the greatest coach of all time with one of the greatest dynastic runs of all time? Like, that seems like a hard thing to do from a firing perspective, unless they can come to some mutual thing, which I think it has to be that way. But there was did you see the hit with Robert Kraft on with McAfee on the NFL morning shows or whatever it was? I just saw the clip of it. I wasn't watching live. And McAfee is like, we all know what you have to do. It was basically like, it was like he just told him right before they went on the air. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to fire Bill Belichick, because either McAfee was way out overstepping his bounds, or because he's interviewing the guy. How disrespectful is that to tell an owner that he has to fire his head coach when that you don't have any inside information that's actually going to happen? And he's basically like, we all know what you have to do and how difficult that's going to be, as if it was already a done deal. So maybe it is more well known in NFL circles than we know on the outside. Matt, can you fire Bill Belichick?
Wow, a lot to unpeel here, because I didn't see the McAfee stuff, and to phrase it kind of the way you did makes it sound like it's Brandon Staley or just some run-of-the-mill, not the greatest coach of all time.
Right.
I mean, it's a little different if it's an interim guy or the Raiders situation or something like that, not Bill frickin' Belichick. So I've been highly, highly critical of Bill, the GM, and I think that is extremely warranted. Yes. I also think that's an environment where free agents and players aren't excited about going, and they're going to break ties to go somewhere else. And they're not going to overspend. Well, maybe they will. I mean, they did that Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith offseason, and that was bad.
That was even weird. They didn't even find difference-making players when they were willing to overspend on guys. They're like, let's overspend on threes and make them twos.
Exactly. I mean, he traded for who was the receiver from Atlanta? He traded a second-round pick for it. It was bad too, and just over and over, just a lot of mistakes. N'Keal Harry in the first round. I mean, over and over. So,
and N'Keal Harry in the first round, when Debo, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf all went in the second round too.
Right, and a loaded receiver class.
Yes.
So it's been very rough. I do want to give him credit this year because, frankly, I think their defense is playing the best in the league. Number one right now. I mean, in terms of what they've done lately, they just don't let up points, period. They've been unbelievably good. So he still has his fastball in terms of X's and O's and game management and all those things. And clearly he would be quite the influence, probably positive, in LA with the Chargers, Washington. Those are the names that you and I have thrown out there. But a multitude of places that could use a culture facelift. He would bring immediate credibility. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Kraft's mind is already made up. He's a little bit spoiled as a fan base, as an owner, that the last couple of years probably aren't sitting well with him. Why keep running it back? And the word fired will never be used. It right. Mutually will part ways or something like that,
I wonder if maybe even a trade situation could be part of it. It's got to be a mutual thing, just from a PR perspective. Even if it is that Bill Belichick doesn't want to go and Kraft wants him out, it can't go that way publicly. So interesting there, and it feels like time. Like you can't keep doing what you're doing in New England, right?
No, I think so.
It reminds me a little bit. You mentioned Los Angeles, which might be a perfect place for Bill Belichick. You got a young star quarterback. Go fix the defense. Go maybe draft another piece on offense to help your quarterback, and you're off and running potentially if you are the Los Angeles Chargers.
Do we even know he wants to coach? He's old. Maybe he wants.
He's old.
Yeah.
Like he might not like the grind anymore. It feels like from a head coach perspective, he doesn't have. And you mentioned the free agency angle. He doesn't have the. Like, oh man, I want to go because it used to be people wanted to go play there and go win, play with Brady and go win under Belichick. They were okay with go do your job and even take a little bit less to play there. Nobody wants to go play for Belichick because it's a grind and it's not enjoyable anymore. Maybe he's lost touch with the modern player too, and maybe he doesn't even like coaching these guys anymore.
I had to look it up because it was bugging me. He traded a second-round pick for Mohamed Sanu not that long ago. Yeah. Like, come on. A second rounder. Like,
you cut him after half the season, right?
Yeah. So no matter what, I hate to say it this way, but there's good owners and bad owners in this league. And I'm sure some bad owners would just say, Bill, take it over. You're the czar. Do whatever you want. A good owner would say all those things, but we're having a GM that is equal power in terms of draft and rebuild, player acquisition. Because it really comes down to this if I'm Kraft. Like, not can Bill still coach, but do I want him in charge of drafting and developing Drake May? He kind of ruined the heck out of Daniel Jones or Mac Jones. Not that he doesn't, it's not apples to apples, but
Mac Jones,
I don't want him in charge.
And where he finished, he got ruined. He could, Mac Jones was never a top of the first round player. He wasn't, what I thought of him before the draft, but he was certainly a better prospect than what he's become over 3 years, especially with what he did right out of the gate as a rookie. He was a playable starting player.
The player aside and his abilities aside, it was a clinic on how to not develop a quarterback.
And he might not be wired in a great way. Leadership might be a problem there. And I'm sure that's where Belichick is like, with your Belichick, you get used to Brady too. And you're like, no, every quarterback doesn't want to win this bad.
And get coached as hard as the backup guards and backup safeties and all that stuff. And he has shoulder pads on the beach with Giselle throwing and stuff like that. Not everyone's the same way. But no, that was a clinic on how to ruin a young quarterback.
Speaking of fired coaches, a Chargers fan did let us know during the week, and apologies, I don't have the tweet saved, but basically it was like, that's not the way they do things. They don't fire coaches in season. So it's not going to happen. Even we keep asking about it every Monday. Okay, Staley's not fired yet. Yeah. Apparently it's just not going to happen. That's not the way they do things. Immediately, the thing that pops in my mind is, okay, Chargers, maybe do something differently than you have been for a while. Let me try that,
Maybe the way you're doing things is the problem.
The Staley watch continues. The Belichick watch, something that I never thought we'd be talking about here, is now on as well in New England. Okay, more questions here. Who would we choose if we were a college football style NFL playoff committee and we had to pick 4 teams to be in the tournament? Talking about Miami Dolphins and a whole lot more in today's Peacock and Williamson mailbag. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. As the weather gets colder, NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. And right now, our listeners and new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. So you sign up, one $5 money line bet if you win $150 to bet on anything you want NFL related. Spreads, player props, over-unders, which coaches are going to get fired next. There's NFL draft props already at FanDuel. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Yearly awards, and of course, weekly spreads and college football and NBA and NHL and every sport you can imagine at FanDuel. There is no better time if you're thinking about joining FanDuel than right now to get in on the action. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, let's move on to our guy, Joey Bag of Donuts. Always a great question asker, frequent listener, everydayer. Appreciate you, Joey. Pretend the NFL switched to college football format and a committee picked the playoff teams. Who would you pick as the top 4, regardless of conference? So we've got one conference of 32 teams, Matt. We picked the 4 that are in the tournament. This is a 2-man committee. What you got?
I think the Niners are the slam dunk. That leaves us 3. I have a hunch you're not going to fight me on that.
Niners got to be in. I think today they're favored over just about everybody.
Yes, they would be the 1 seed or whatever.
Where I struggle is I think if I picked them, I would end up with 3 NFC teams out of 4. And it's hard for me to know if the other 2 NFC teams, and who knows, maybe all 4 NFC teams, if we're just looking at records here, because is it because the NFC is bad that they look better? Is the AFC more competitive? So the top teams, it's harder to suss out who those are. That's where it starts to get a little bit difficult for me, because I feel like after the Niners, if we're doing power rankings, Philly and Dallas are kind of up there. But I don't know if we can go 3 NFC teams. But we're.
Well, he said it doesn't matter conference.
We're blind to conference. But I also, because of how it's sort of like the Power 5 thing. It's like, okay, who did you beat? The strength of victory thing. Are the strength of victories for these AFC teams that play each other? They beat up on each other, so the records don't look as good. So maybe the Eagles and the Cowboys don't belong over, say, the Chiefs or the Bills or the Dolphins in the AFC.
So I looked at this 2 ways. Like, if it's truly the college way of doing things, you have to have a strong resume. You can't have many losses. Who did you beat? Who did you lose to? When was it? Was it early in the season, or was it, unfortunately, in the SEC championship game for Georgia? That was their first loss in 2 years. But, they got no chance.
So the Dolphins are out is what you're trying to say.
What's that?
The Dolphins are out is what you're trying to say.
They're out no matter what for me.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking about what would be the best 4 teams to watch, and who are the best 4 teams in the league right now, I would go Actually, let me start this over. San Fran and Dallas are in no matter what. I mean, they're 2 of my 4. I think Cowboys are strong enough. Yeah.
Dallas head-to-head beat Philly. Well, actually, they split. Dallas and Philly split, so that's a tough one too. But the one that I remember,
great victory,
recency bias, more dominating win was the Cowboys.
Yes. So to me, they're both in. If I have to just do it based off of paper, resume, I would take the Ravens and Eagles as the other 2 teams.
That was my 4. Niners, Eagles, Cowboys, Ravens. And I'd probably go Niners 1 seed, Ravens 2 seed, Cowboys 3 seed, Eagles 4 seed. And that's based on resume. None of them have injured quarterbacks right now, Matt. Do we kick one of them out? If Lamar Jackson gets hurt tomorrow, does he get kicked out of your tourney?
Maybe. Kind of what happened to Florida State, right? However, if I were to build the tournament that I think would have the 4 best teams in it, I would kick the Eagles out and put the Bills in.
No Chiefs in either scenario.
They get the big honorable mention with Mahomes about to give me the finger in the next couple of weeks, now that he's mad and he just lights the league on fire.
All because of a bad offensive offsides call, Matt.
That's just the
talking about recency bias. The Bill, yeah. Oof.
In terms of just the best teams right now, though, the Bills would be like, if I were doing a power rank today, I think the Bills would be 4. Like, I think they're better than the Eagles right now. But the Eagles have a better resume.
For say 49ers and then 3 AFC teams, because 49ers blew the doors off both of Dallas and Philly already, 42-19 and 42-10. Do we need to see those matchups again, or do we go with the unknowns and we go 49ers, Ravens, Chiefs, and fourth, maybe the Lions even. Lions and Cowboys play. So that's going to be Lions Cowboys play and 49ers Ravens play.
I can't give you the Lions. Not the way that they're playing lately, and their defense has been really bad. I did just want to check strength of schedule. The Eagles have played the hardest schedule in the league so far. So I think that's one feather in their cap.
And they beat a lot of good teams, a lot of close games. And they got the last 2 weeks really. They would have been 1 seed, obviously, before 2 weeks ago. And then now it's like, okay, oof.
And only the Saints and Falcons have played an easier schedule than the Cowboys. But I would still have the Cowboys in.
If I told you right now, the game just ended, Lions beat the Cowboys, where you at?
Then I'm throwing KC in over the Lions or some AFC team.
The Cowboys are out and the Lions are out either way. So the Lions can only be a spoiler in our tourney. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, they could change my tune and win out or go 3 out of 4 and get right back in this thing. They're certainly capable. But their defense has kind of been the worst in the league for the last month or so.
Bottom line, I think we both agree. We came up independently with the same 4 teams. It's 49ers, Ravens, Eagles, Cowboys.
Yeah. Ravens have a pretty strong resume.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And we get to see that on Christmas. Niners, Ravens.
Yeah, that's fun. Ravens have some good games coming up. They're prime time against the Jags this week.
So what would this is a good because we eliminated the Dolphins so quickly there because of their strength of victory.
Right.
The Dolphins are the 2 seed, right? In the AFC right now? Are they not?
Yes, they are. They could have. Now there's a gap between them and Baltimore. I think we said this on Tuesday, but in terms of point spreads, that was the worst loss of the entire year by any team.
Yes. That was a bad one.
I know it's 1 game and it's recency bias, but it was the worst loss of the year.
At home.
Right.
They
still lead injuries and stuff, I know, but
still lead the AFC East. And we got a question from A. Hendricks on Twitter. The question is, I'm still in shock. Dolphins fan recovering from Monday night. Our schedule is about to get brutal. How many more games do you think we win? I think it's 2 max. Do we make the playoffs even? Love the pod. Keep up the great work. Fins up. Appreciate it. A. Hendricks. Appreciate the question. Appreciate you being an everydayer over there. Here is the schedule the rest of the way for the Miami Dolphins. Last 4 games of the year. Now they're 9-4 right now. First of all, the question would be, does 9-8 get you in? You got Jets at home, Cowboys at home. So 3 or 4 at home, which is good. But it's Jets, then Cowboys. Then they go on the road at the Ravens. Then they finish back at home with the Buffalo Bills. That is pretty brutal.
Really brutal. And the Jets aren't even a pushover. You're not going to drop 40 on the Jets.
Lost big to the Bills. The first loss of the season for the Eagles was 48-20. They lost to the Eagles, lost to the Chiefs. And then their other loss is the Titans, which is the worst loss of the season we just talked about. So they haven't proven they could beat any of those last 3 teams, Cowboys, Ravens, or Bills. And they're going to have to beat one of them.
So I keep bringing up the Bills because I am still infatuated with them. If they beat Dallas in Buffalo this week, they then go to the Chargers and then host New England. Game in Miami week 18 very well could be for the title. For the East crown. But just when I thought the East was wrapped up, and the tear Buffalo's on and losing Monday night could be week 18 for the East.
And we mentioned a little bit this in our post Sunday episode, Matt, talking about the Miami Dolphins and the Bills and how that looks in that week 18 matchup. And I had forgotten, and I was reminded that the Bills are going to own the tiebreaker there. So no matter what the conference record is, division record, if the Bills win that week 18 game, they've got the tiebreaker over the Dolphins. And they beat them head to head already. Yes. So they're 2 games behind right now. They sweep the Dolphins, then all they need is to go into that game 1 game behind them. So if they win, they're tied, then the Bills are in and the Dolphins are out as far as division winner. And if it's a situation where it's they're both 9-8, that means whoever doesn't win that game could be out of the playoffs completely. It could be like an NFC South situation.
Yeah, all those crazy tiebreakers for AFC wild card. Who knows where you land? There's so many teams involved. So if the Bills do beat Dallas in Buffalo this week, I think that's a 3-game, add 3 wins to their total before they play Miami. And that's frightening.
It's huge. And then also that would be a huge impact on the NFC seeding because now that's that 2-5 swap between Philly and Dallas that we're going to see the rest of the way. Philly's got one of the easier schedules the rest of the way.
I think you mentioned it yesterday. The 5 spot's not bad in the NFC because you're almost guaranteed to go to the conference divisional round. but you don't want to go to San Fran in week 2.
Right. Yeah. No, nobody wants to go to San Francisco. Nobody wants to go to Baltimore. And really nobody wants to go to Philadelphia, even though the 49ers have proven that they could go there and win. Next, let's talk New York Giants. And there's a tie in there with the Eagles and the Giants and young Tommy DeVito at quarterback and a whole lot more in the Peacock and Williamson mailbag. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. And shout out to PrizePicks. They sent me a coffee mug here. And to my surprise, the little alien head turns green when you put hot coffee in it. And
well, how about that?
It's black now because I'm out of coffee. So I got to refill my PrizePick mug. And you can refill your PrizePicks winnings by turning $10 into $250 at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is easy. It is so much fun. It's you against the numbers. That's the best part. It's you against the PrizePicks projections. You're not battling thousands of other players, no pros, no sharks in the pool trying to steal your money. It's more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and then you watch the winnings roll in if you hit the more thans and the less thans on all of your 2 to 6. The more you pick, the higher the percentage goes, up to 25 times your money on fantasy football this season. So go to PrizePicks and get a deposit match bonus as well with our promo code prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL or download the app and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, you put in $100, PrizePicks matches it. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So we've got a lot of questions about Tommy DeVito, and we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier on in the week. Do you take Daniel Jones or do you take Tommy DeVito? And New York Giants reporter asked Brian Daboll this week. Brian Daboll didn't even let him finish the question because he said, you were in New England when a certain quarterback was picked 199. And Brian's like, nope, stop. Don't even ask the question. I don't think Brian Daboll believes that Tommy DeVito is the next Tom Brady. But
dude, it's all Brock Purdy's fault. Everyone thinks Brock Purdy's just like they just come along every year now. I mean, Brady's been every 30 years or something. Now it's like, oh, well, we just saw one last year. It's going to be DeVito.
You got Jake Browning in Cincinnati, who's already the next Brock Purdy. So Tommy DeVito can't even be that. So now they're like, oh, well, he was just the next Tom Brady. So I don't know what Tommy DeVito is, but he's got something to him. He's owning the moment. This is the New York market. And maybe it's just because he's from there, but he's like, bring it on. Put the camera in my face. I'm Italian. I'm going to ride that wave. And like, Tommy Cutlets, they're calling him. And he's, I don't know how it's going to end, but they're playing their best ball. And the Eagles play the Giants twice. And I would much rather have played the Giants with Daniel Jones early in the season than the Giants right now with Tommy DeVito. So I'll put it that way. Even though the question we get asked is Tommy DeVito the real deal? Is he going to stick around? Is he their starter potentially into the future? I don't think I'm ready to say any of those things. It's a great story, and the Giants are clearly better now than they were. And Saquon Barkley's talking him up, and I mean, he's got the locker room. It almost like if you're Daniel Jones, you're kind of slumping down in the corner, looking around and being like, man, I'm sure as hell not going to see the end of my contract.
I agree with 99% of what you said. They're definitely better now than they were. And he's better now than he was when he got inserted in the lineup. You know, he had no chance that first game or so. I mean, like, hey, Tommy, you're in there. Right?
-7 yards or something in the first game.
So, of course, his reputation got destroyed then. He was a laughing stock. I laughed at him. Everybody laughed at him. The underreported story, though, is it's really the healthiest they've been. Guys like Andrew Thomas that are super important. I mean, they went like 10 weeks without being able to block anybody. And like Thibodeau has come on and looks like an emerging star. And the defense is starting to play not just okay, but quite well. I mean, Dexter Lawrence we should talk about him every day. He's one of the best players in the league and never gets talked about because he's a nose and he's on the Giants. So their D has been carrying them, and Barkley, and they're reasonably healthy, and they have an offensive line that actually blocks people. I hate to burst bubbles, but I think DeVito, to his credit, now will last in the league for 10 years. He'll never pay for a beer in the New Jersey or New York area. You'll see a DeVito jersey at Giants games for years to come. He'll get in a Minshew-like manner here and there and mop up or get you out of a month when your starter goes down. And I know both of us don't aren't Daniel Jones believers, nor would we have paid him. But that ownership isn't going to be like, we're having a quarterback competition. I mean, Jones is going to be the starter in week 1. But I did just want to look at this. They have like average cap space this offseason. And right now, after a 3-game winning streak, they're picking 8th in the draft. So if you're somewhere between, I don't know, 7 and 10 when it's all said and done, I would have to know the draft better, but I would consider drafting quarterback 3 there, or moving up 3-4 spots to get the LSU dude, somebody like that. But you might be in no man's land.
I think it's wide open. And the fact that they've won some games obviously helps the stock for Tommy DeVito, but it pushes the Giants further away from drafting one of the top no-brainer quarterbacks that if you're picking 1 or 2 and you're the Giants, you 100% just take one of those quarterbacks. And so now it's kind of just all wide open. I don't think it's that slam of a dunk right now that Daniel Jones walks into week 1 as a starter. I think he takes the first reps in OTAs if the season ended today. But Tommy DeVito's numbers are kind of identical. Like completion percentage is 66 to 67. The big thing where Tommy DeVito is winning right now is the touchdown to interception ratio. Daniel Jones threw 2 touchdowns this year and 6 interceptions in 6 games.
I think last year was very, very low too.
You didn't light the world on fire. It was mostly a little added value as a runner, and Tommy DeVito's doing that too. So Tommy DeVito's running ability is right on par with what we saw from Daniel Jones. So
that's important.
Just from straight up quarterback play, and maybe it is just the line in front of him is the biggest difference here. It's really kind of the same. So it's not like Tommy DeVito is playing a lot better than Daniel Jones. Touchdown to interception is really the only thing where he's significantly better. Everything else is almost identical. Same offense, right? So just the parts around him are better. It probably makes up that difference.
They are.
But I don't know if he llooks better in camp. He gets to start, and there might be another rookie quarterback that's in the mix as well that starts over both of them. So I think kind of everything's wide open. I think it's a 40% chance that it's Daniel Jones, a 30% chance that it's Tommy DeVito, and a 30% chance that it's the field at starting week 1 quarterback for the Giants next year.
Maybe they're the team that does like the Will Levis move and moves up in the top of the 2nd round for that guy that falls. You know what I mean? Like, can't quite get one and kind of hedge your bets. We'll get the best offensive player we can, draft, neighbors out of LSU in the 1st round to make whoever's quarterback's life easier. And then we'll go get the Herndon Hooker Levis day 2 guy,
Question from Sean: which players exceeded expectations this season more than anyone else?
I saw this and I jotted down too. There's probably 100 I'm not thinking of. Because first of all, I thought the Rams exceeded expectations as a whole, and McVay would be my coach of the year. You mentioned this off the air. Puka certainly would be in that mix because I brought up Kyron Williams, who we just did a deep dive on Locked On Dynasty. I didn't think he was a starting back, and now he's lighting the world on fire.
Yeah,
and
from a fantasy perspective, Kyron Williams is and Puka both are huge ones. So but Puka was like 0 expectations. So I think that to answer the question properly, we got to find someone who had some expectations because, Jake Browning and Tommy DeVito, it's like they weren't even on the expectations list to exceed,
Even Flacco.
Yeah, right.
I mean, these guys had 0 expectations. We're just laughing at them and they're winning games. Something to be said for that.
Williams is a good one. And I think that might be the winner, but you named one on the defensive side of the ball I like a lot too.
Yeah, I was wrong about the Ravens defense as a whole. I had low expectations. I thought, boy, they don't really have pass rushers, but boy, they have a great scheme. Jadeveon Clowney's been very, very good this year. And frankly, he's been a mercenary that is much more name value than true production and down in, down out value. This year, he's been the total opposite. His body looks different. He's bending better. He's more explosive. We all know the talent was there as a 1st overall pick. That's been a perfect marriage.
I want to get this question made me laugh. I don't really know what we can answer from this question, but this one from it's true though on Twitter. He says, "Why is it a challenge to have 5 eligible receivers on any play where they know and the QB know where they're going and the defense doesn't, to create confusion, indecision, hesitation, and miscommunication by the defense such that at least one is wide open or can be thrown open?" I mean, that is the job description of an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
good luck. I mean, I just thought it was a funny question because it's like, why is it a challenge? It's clearly a challenge because there's guys paid that are really smart on the other side of the ball too. And I think having all of that information in your head and processing it with the elitist level of athletes in the world trying to stop you, and men that can absolutely hurt you, that are much bigger than you, that are right in your face, I think that's what makes it difficult. I think looking at it on TV, I think job of quarterback and offensive coordinator is probably a lot easier from where we sit than where those guys sit on game day.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I'm not making fun of this tweet at all. I mean, we have all levels of different fans and knowledge, and everybody's interested in trying to learn. But I just mentioned Jadeveon Clowney. If I introduced you to, if you shook Jadeveon Clowney's hand once, you'd say, "How does anyone ever complete a pass in this planet ever?"
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Not back now. This guy's going to be 5.
You get 2.5 seconds to get this football 30 yards to another man, and there's 11 Jadeveon Clowneys out there. Like, hi, let me introduce you to Sauce Gardner. Could you imagine what I mean, just the look and the way these people move would blow away most of our listeners.
You have to get rid of the ball, process it all, and be accurate in less time than it takes to say the words Jadeveon Clowney.
Exactly. Right. I mean, certainly to spell it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Thanks to all the question askers. Apologies to the ones we did not get to. Appreciate them all every single week. At BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Let us know whenever you have a question, and we will attack it in the next Peacock and Williamson mailbag. You can drop a question on the YouTube comments as well. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast, and check out the 24/7 Locked On Sports Today stream, the first of its kind. Doing big things here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We appreciate you. And of course, Matt and I back tomorrow making picks for week 15. Talk to you then right here, Peacock and Williamson.